Well,
Hmm.
I know you're gonna manage those pennies with Crystal,
Yes,
right here for us
I
on
will.
Morning Barbados as we go into the second of 3 hours.
Yes.
Crystal,
So
morning.
Shane, get your coffee
Good
break
morning.
because I've had mine. Good morning, Crystal. You and I are gonna chat for this session. 7:33 is our time now. So I hope you had a good weekend, Crystal.
I did. How about you?
It was pretty good. Celebration time. It was
Birthday
good.
That
boys.
seems to have been the theme.
Yes. Yes. I think there are a lot of October babies, Crystal. I'm convinced now because as we went out, we realized there were lots of people celebrating indeed. So I hope all those celebrating continue to celebrate the month because life is a really special gift, and this time has shown that to us even more. And Crystal, so that's why we have to even appreciate more these moments that you spend with us here, sharing the knowledge that you can. And I appreciate all those photos on Instagram, the flashback photos, by the way, just saying. So let's get into our session today. Let's talk about managing those pennies and what you want us to keep top of mind from this morning session.
Well, we started talking last week about making sure that the measures that persons take still maintain their profitability. Because as you grow, you want to make sure you're not just growing the top line, that you're also growing your profits. And I know that especially for small businesses, a lot of persons don't measure these things, but you have to make sure that you are measuring your profitability. And another aspect that we need to look at as well is our working capital and operational efficiency. So most persons may not understand what working capital is, but just a general picture is that you have to make sure that you have enough cash or credit available to pay for your additional costs as you grow. And a larger organization with more activities and costs will need more cash to run it. And it is possible to grow through finding inefficiencies in your current operations, possibly rather than just expanding. So you can look at all of those particular opportunities to make sure that as you grow, if your rank or any other aspects of your business have increased, do you have the working capital to be able to support it? You want to make sure that you don't run out of money because at the end of the day, cash is king. You have to make sure that your distribution network is in place and that your current network can handle the additional business. And do you have the ability to add to that network?
All good questions. So, is there then? It sounds like you're saying there should always be a card or some cash that allows you to have that kind of cash flow so that you can service whatever surprises may pop up
Yeah.
or the maintenance that you need. Does that also mean you need to anticipate what maintenance problems could pop up?
Maintenance is definitely one that persons many times try to put off because I know times are tough. And I've seen businesses that have taken maintenance schedules and delayed them or stretched them out. That may work in the short term, but you have to make sure that you don't create long term problems. And just a simple example, anybody with a vehicle knows that there are certain times, especially the older your vehicle is, that you should be making sure that you get your vehicle checked up. And you may save some money with the mechanic by skipping it this particular time, and your car would hold out. But you can't keep that strategy forever because then you will create bigger problems. And it's not very different for your business. If there are certain things that require maintenance and you put it off and you put it off because I understand, yes, COVID would have created that problem with cash flow. You have to make sure you don't put it off to the point where you create bigger problems for yourself in the long run. So you have to make sure that your maintenance schedules are on track, especially if you have equipment that you're depending on. So let's say that you're a person who makes clothes. You have your sewing machine and you may be doing some maintenance that you may have dropped off because you have to make sure the gears in your sewing machine are well oiled and that they're working properly. But you decide, okay, I can't afford to take this to the guy that I use all the time to service it because that $50 or however much it costs, I could really use that to do something else. And then your sewing machine stops working,
Oh boy.
which then defeats the whole purpose because now your only form of income has been put on pause because your equipment has malfunctioned from a lack of servicing. So these are things you have to make sure are in place so that you don't create bigger problems for yourself down the road.
Okay. What are some of the other little things that can become big problems that we need to keep in mind so that we keep the business running smoothly as it's supposed to? What about persons like yourself and having people, actual financial people, make sure that everything is the way it ought to be?
It's important to talk to your professionals, and as you grow your business in particular and it gets more complex is where you would need to have more financial advice coming on board, because even as we would have spoken about the difference between registering your business name and incorporating, you
Mm-hmm.
want to make sure that everything that you need to file that you have in place. So that's where lawyers and accountants, their advice could become invaluable. And it may not necessarily be a person or a professional that you have to hire full time. You may want to make sure that in the beginning you have that conversation so that going forward you have everything in place. And for many persons, they're actually able to maintain their financials on their own for a while because most of their inflows are cash based and you're able to just manage what cash is coming in, the persons that owe you money, what inventory you have on hand manually. Or when I say manual, not necessarily in a textbook, but you have a software program that you can enter this information to keep track of. But you want to make sure that, as I've always been saying for every single program, that you are keeping track. If you're not sure when you're supposed to pay your creditors, you can create problems for yourself down the road when amounts come due and you've already spent the money on something else that may not have been as big a priority. So again, keeping track of maintenance schedules, of persons that you owe, debts that you have to pay, managing where your priorities are for your cash is going to be important, and you won't be able to manage those priorities unless you're documenting them.
Excellent. You mentioned something that made me think of a question because you see these little signs sometimes when you go to certain establishments, no credit today. And you know, today is every day. So, and you mentioned about keeping track of people who owe. How do people deal with things like allowing for owing? What should be their approach? Final comment, please.
It's not for every business, but there are persons who are considering being able to extend credit. And with everything, again, you sometimes people don't think about the consequences of certain things they do until they've run into trouble. But having a contract, it can be a very simple agreement where you would say, okay, we give you 30 days to be able to make your payments. And a lot of persons even do this already informally, where you give trust to customers and they have a tab or whatever the case may be. But if you have more expensive items and you want to make sure that the person is kept to account to be able to pay you back, you may want to have something documented in writing where
Mm-hmm.
they would agree to it and sign off so that if anything goes wrong and you have to take it to court, at least you have something in writing to show that these were the terms and the person would have broken the contract. So you want to have those things in place. And you can use examples from places that you've been before. Most persons have taken out furniture or equipment on credit, and you would have signed some form of hire purchase agreement. You don't have to reinvent the wheel. You can use these kind of things as guidelines for
Right.
yourself if you want to become a little bit more formal.
Excellent. Good tips. Great tips, in fact. And as always, this is Crystal. Crystal given an opportunity. Crystal Howell, internal auditor. And she is, of course, a chartered professional accountant, ensuring that you know how to manage those pennies. I can't wait. I look forward to the next session as we help people through these times.
Have a wonderful Monday.